Welcome to Sorry We're Booked. I am Laney, and today we are doing my April reading recap. As you can see, I am not in the studio with my lovely friend Jess. That is because schedules are hard to get together sometimes, and that's all right. She's got 3 young boys, and I am now in my 3rd trimester of pregnancy, which sounds crazy to say. So if I'm out of breath, give me some grace. I am feeling it. I'll just say that. But no, I think at the moment she is in Hawaii sipping a Mai Tai on the beach after snorkeling, and it's a well-earned and a well-deserved vacation for her and her husband. So super pumped for her, but we figured we'd still put out some content. It might be shorter than normal because we're not going back and forth and talking like we normally will, but we wanted to do our April reading recaps for the 2 of us, and then also the best and the worst of 2025 so far. So without further ado, I'll dive right in. April was a pretty good month for me, I'll have to admit. I was kind of in this weird slump for most of this year where I would get like a 5-star and be on it, and then the next book I would get would be like, I don't know, a 1 or a 2-star, like very low. And so then I'd get in a reading slump for, a couple weeks, and then I'd get another 5-star, and then I'd go back to a bad book. So April, I read 4 books. It's 2 days left in April right now. I'm in the process of finishing an audiobook as well as finishing a book, which I'll talk about as well. So I haven't quite finished them, but I'll still talk about them since I feel like I'm I feel like no big twists are gonna happen, and everything's been revealed, so I feel confident in giving my review probably on those 2. But the first book that I read in April was Heartless Hunter, and this was a recommendation, none other by Jess, but this is Heartless Hunter, also known as the Crimson Moth series by Kristen Kisarelli. I hope I'm not butchering that. That looks Italian, and we all know that I don't know my Italian, but as I say, Italian and not Italian. Anyways, I rated this 3.75 stars. I gave it 4 stars on Goodreads, but in my comment, I said 3.75. And I'll give my little short blurb, and then I'll get into like the actual review. But I said, surprisingly really liked this one. It took me a bit to get into, but once I did, I really enjoyed it. I liked the Bridgerton courtship era, plus fantasy, plus enemies to lovers. Excited to see what the next book has in store. And I listened to this one on audiobook, and I believe, gosh, it was the beginning of the month, so I'm now trying to recall it, but I believe that it was a female and a male narrator, which I appreciated. But yeah, I was pleasantly surprised by this one. Went into it completely blind. Had no idea what it was about. I didn't even know it was about a witch and a witch hunter. That's how blind I was going into it, which should tell you something. And so I had no idea that it was like in a Bridgerton, Old English era. I had no idea that it was about a witch and a witch hunter. I had no idea what the premise was going to be. But essentially, Goodreads says, I'll just read it here. On the night Rune's life changed forever, blood ran in the streets. Now in the aftermath of a devastating revolution, witches have been diminished from powerful rulers to outcasts, ruthlessly hunted due to their waning magic, and Rune must hide what she is. Spending her days pretending to be nothing more than a vapid young socialite, Rune spends her nights as the Crimson Moth, a witch vigilante who rescues her kind from being purged. When a rescue goes wrong, she decides to throw the witch hunters off her scent and gain the intel she desperately needs by courting the handsome Gideon Sharp, a notorious and unforgiving witch hunter loyal to the revolution, who she can't help but find herself falling for. Gideon loathes the decadence and superficiality Rune represents, but when he learns that Crimson Moth has been using Rune's merchant ships to smuggle renegade witches off the Republic, he inserts himself into the social circles by pretending to court her right back. He soon realizes that beneath her beauty and shallow facade is someone fiercely intelligent and tender who feels like his perfect match. Except, what if she's the very villain he's been hunting? And it goes on to say that it's a thrilling start to a romantic fantasy duology. Okay, so that's news to me. It's just gonna be 2 books, where the only thing more treacherous than being a witch is falling in love. And I'll be honest, this is just kind of my backstory and whatnot. I'm not super into like the whole witch stuff. The most I probably delve into witches and wizards and stuff is Harry Potter. And so I was a little, in the beginning of the book, I was like, okay, how much witchcraft are we going to get into? Is it going to be, kind of evil magic? Is it going to be malicious? And so far the book wasn't anything like that. So I was pleasantly surprised on that front. But then also, yeah, like I was saying, I liked that it was like courtship like Bridgerton. They had balls and dances and it talked about their gowns and everything like that. At one point, I think that it even mentioned like having the dance cards, from Bridgerton, where the man writes his name on the dance card to woo the lady. But yeah, really good enemies to lovers. Not that much spice. I don't remember there being that much spice. But if there was, it wasn't too bad. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think the only reason it wasn't a 4 or above for me was probably because it felt a little YA at times, and I'm not sure that this is diagnosed. I'm not sure that this is actually a YA. And so, anyways, the main male character was pretty lovable. I liked him a lot. At one point, it was kind of weird because he grew up as a dressmaker, so he like makes her a dress. So I thought that was kind of, I don't know. I like my men very manly, so the fact that he was like making her a dress, I was like, that's sweet, but at the same time, he's making a dress, like it's just kind of funny. So that was how I started off my month, and yeah, 3.75. But thank you, Jess, for the recommendation. I definitely do plan to finish out the duology, not the series, now I know that. And I'm sure it's on crazy hold on Libby right now, so that's what I'm waiting on. But right after that, I delved into probably the most gut-wrenching, heartbreaking, just soul-crushing 5-star I have ever read. And that is none other than Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. So, long anticipated book. Yeah, this one destroyed me. I'm not gonna lie. For those who have read it, you know what I'm talking about. For those who won't, I will try my darndest not to spoil anything, but it's gonna be really hard to without giving away some stuff. So if you don't want to listen to that, maybe skip forward to the next book. But yeah, I was very impressed with this book. I did not read, and I think I mentioned this on a previous episode, I did not read Songbirds and Snakes. I tried to get into it. To be honest, I couldn't get into Snow's story, and I didn't have enough. I love the Hunger Games, and this book, Sunrise on the Reaping, has reignited my love for the Hunger Games. But at the time, 2 years ago, when that one came out, just wasn't feeling it. So I never read that one. I watched the movie though. But I loved Haymitch from the Hunger Games, and so I was really excited to know his backstory. I knew it was going to be bad if he ended up being an belligerent alcoholic who, was bitter and horrible and whatever in the Hunger Games series. But I wanted to know about his background. I wanted to know how he won the Hunger Games that he was in. And yeah, it takes place in the 50th quarter quell. So essentially, yeah, I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. It was, all I said was the most painful and gut-wrenching 5-star I've ever read. And I finished this at like 11 p.m. one night, and I just remember sitting there being like, wow. And it's one of those books that like I'm still thinking about like a month later. So I think I'm gonna remember this one for a while. But yeah, there were so many twists in it that I did not expect. I thought it was just gonna be just a, not a basic Hunger Games. I knew it was probably going to be a little bit different, but so I was pleasantly surprised with this one. There are a ton of Hunger Games characters in it. There are a ton of just little notes that are referenced in the Hunger Games that come back, and you're just like, oh, that's why, or oh, that makes a lot of sense. So Suzanne Collins did a phenomenal job to the point where you're like, did she already write this story or have these things in mind when she wrote the Hunger Games? Because it's that tied together to the original trilogy. So I was just blown away by it. I know there's mixed reviews online. I think for the most part they're positive, but then of course with anything popular there's going to be haters out there that don't like it, and whatever, to each their own. I thought it was phenomenal. It was a lot more morbid and gruesome writing than the original trilogy. I will warn y'all with that. Like, I feel like the Hunger Games, yes, the kids were getting killed, but it wasn't that descriptive. This one was pretty descriptive. So just know that going into it, that it's probably not going to be as YA as you think. She definitely grew it up with the readers. So I love that one. I will never read it again. I'll just say that. It didn't have a happy ending. It kind of did. It has an epilogue where it jumps to the future with Hey Mitch. And that's all. I'll leave it at that. So it somewhat has a redeeming ending for a gut-wrenching story. But I've been seeing all these memes on Instagram and TikTok of basically how, you know, when Suzanne Collins wrote Songbirds and Snakes, and then they came out with the movie, everybody thought that the main male character, Snow, was a heartthrob. I never saw it, but a lot of people did. And basically, it was all these girls, like, not caring that he's a horrible person because he was hot in the movie. And all these memes are saying now, you know, oh, they think Snow's hot? Just wait. Just watch this. And Snow does some horrible, horrible things in this book where you're like, oh yeah, that's why we hate him. That's why he's the bad guy. Okay, yeah, forget that he's hot. He's actually evil. So I thought those have been funny. Michael and I have been laughing about that. But right after that, could not be farther genre-wise than Sunrise on the Reaping, was another highly anticipated release, Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez. I actually don't have these books with me because I lent them to Jess immediately after I finished them, so she's got them right now. But yeah, I was, again, a 5 out of 5 star for this one. And this one was very, I don't know, people have very strong opinions on this one. I loved it. I really do. And I'll be honest, I'm an easy reader sometimes. If you check the boxes of what I want in a romance, if I don't find the female main character completely intolerable, if I like the main male character, if he reminds me of my husband, that's a big thing. If somebody reminds me of Michael, then I automatically, I like the romance. I'm not gonna lie. So I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. I said, I truly don't understand the bad reviews on this one. Maybe it just spoke to me in so many different ways. I loved every second of it. Read it in 3 sittings. That's true. Loved the relationship, loved the portrayal of sacrificial love, and I loved the ending. So, you know, before this one came out, you know, everybody was talking about it. And I think Abby on a interview basically said that this was going to be a tearjerker. I didn't find it to be that emotional. It did have heavy, it's not, I feel like a plot reveal, but the female main character's mom has dementia really badly, and so that was a heavier topic for them to speak on. But yeah, it's about this Xavier Rush guy who's a gorgeous veterinarian, and then what's the main girl's name? Samantha, who basically rescues this cat, goes in, they have like a little bit of a tiff in the beginning, but then they end up going out, and then they do long distance for a long time, and it's just about, you know, the pain and the hardship that comes with doing long distance, which I've done before, so maybe that's why I appreciated it so much, because yeah, I think Abby Jimenez, I think she perfectly captured the feeling of, you know that you're not gonna break up because you love each other so much, but then when you're apart and living your individual lives, you are so unhappy. So it's that hardship of, man, I love this person and I'm gonna do everything in my power to be with them, but the timing just isn't right now where we can physically be together in the same place at the same time. Yeah, so it was really beautiful. The main male character reminded me a lot of Michael, and just all the sacrifices that, you know, Michael over the years did when we were doing long distance, and I just liked it. I really, really did, and I liked the ending. So that gave a 5 out of 5 for me. Then I went to something, and I know I'm gonna get some hate on this from my fellow Brandon Sanderson gals. Man, you guys, this was my first Brandon Sanderson, Trust of the Emerald Sea. I wanted to like it so bad. I remember reading it and thinking to myself, I wish I actually liked what I was reading right now, because this is my first Brandon Sanderson. It has been hyped up so much by everyone and their mother, I feel like. And so going into it, maybe I just had unrealistic expectations. I know this is kind of like a standalone. It somehow is related to the Cosmere, but I was told that this is like, you know, if you aren't super ready to get into the heavy fantasy, you know, that is Brandon Sanderson, try Trust of the Emerald Sea first and see if you like that one. And I don't know if it's going to completely deter me from Brandon Sanderson. I'll probably still end up getting to Mistborn and all of the things, but man, this one was a hard one to like. I gave it 2.75 stars out of 5, so not even 50%. And my review said I wanted to like this one. I really did. It's my first Brandon Sanderson, and I just could not get into the story for the life of me. I did not get attached to any of the characters. The middle half was really, really hard to get through, and the ending left me frustrated. I am so sad. So I think I'm in the minority big time on this one, because the average rating is a 4.45 on Goodreads. So clearly I'm missing something. But yeah, it was basically like if they took The Princess Bride, but set everything pirate themed. So I know that there's pirates in The Princess Bride. So like, just imagine everything is pirates. And about 90% of the novel is set on a ship where this girl is trying to figure out how to rescue the love of her life named Charlie, who went on a voyage to go somewhere with his parents. See, I can't even remember. That's how little I cared about the characters. But basically she goes on this big journey, and it's the characters she meets along the way, and I don't know. I just didn't care about any of them. I would say that the writing style was unique in the fact that it's told from a narrator who you don't know who the narrator is until about 75% of the way through the book. It's finally revealed who's narrating the book and why that person is important. So that was slightly cool. But then, like, I'll just say this. There's a huge, big reveal at the end. And I just remember reading it and being like, that's the big reveal? Are you kidding me? This was happening all along? And I don't know. I got so furious that was the big reveal that it kind of put a sour taste in my mouth about the book, totally, because I don't know. It wasn't good to me. And then the ending was so rushed for, I would say, 50% of the book being just her stuck on this pirate ship. The ending felt so rushed compared to that. So that was kind of a bummer for me. But maybe I'll still get into Brandon Sanderson. Maybe not. We'll see. But yeah, not my favorite. But I'll go through the next two that I am almost done with. I'll go to another meh book, and then I'll finish on a good one. So I'm reading currently Beg, Borrow, or Steal by Sarah Adams. And I normally love Sarah Adams books. They're really clean rom-com books. So if you're looking for no spice, they're awesome for that. She does a lot of sports romance, which I've loved in the past. This one is between two enemies to lovers who are teachers, and they're rival teachers and neighbors, and he buys this house when he goes back to the town that she teaches in. They just happen to be neighbors, yada yada yada. So very predictable, very fluffy, I'll say that. The main irk of mine is that the main male character, again, going back to how I like my men very manly, hence my husband, but yeah, he's just kind of quirky. I just don't like him very much. Like, he wears weird clothes, like he has like funky socks, and he's always wearing like colored pants and like weird, graphic t-shirt. It's not my vibe. So when I'm reading about this love story, I just have a hard time maybe appreciating it, because that's just not my my cup of tea, but that's okay because it might be somebody else's and that's totally fine. But I'm almost done with it, and I would give it like a 2.5 out of 5 probably. So super fast to get through, quick chapters. I rented it on Libby, and so I just have it on my Kindle and I'm just kind of flying through it. So if you're looking for something fun and easy, maybe check it out. But I would definitely recommend Sarah Adams's other books instead, which I'll pull up real quick. The Cheat Sheet, that's probably one of my favorites. Practice Makes Perfect, really good one. The Rule Book is another really great one. Yeah, I would recommend those 3 of hers before you maybe do Beg, Borrow, and Steal. So I'm reading that one, and then I'm listening to The Husbands. It's kind of not really talked about very much. I feel like nobody's really heard of it. I'll be honest, the whole reason I even wanted to read about it or read it or listen to it was the name, The Husbands, my last name being Husband. So I was like, oh, that's fun. And I bought it purely because I was like, oh, that'd be fun to have on a bookshelf, you know, The Husbands. But basically, it's a cute, very wholesome storytelling of a woman named Lauren who lives in a flat in London. And every single time, or she comes home and she lives alone, she's not married or anything like that, and all of a sudden this man comes down from the attic and they're married. She's in this alternate timeline where that is her husband. Well, when he goes back up the attic, he comes back down, it's a completely different man. So every time this husband of hers goes up and down the attic, she gets a new husband. So it's very fun so far. Very quirky. The narrator, I'm listening to it right now, is British, so that's fun. Very fast. I think it's only like a 3-hour book, but I'm almost finished with it, and it's surprisingly heartwarming. I thought it was going to be just kind of a basic story, but it's very heartwarming and very wholesome, and yeah, it's pretty good. So I would recommend that one if you're looking for a good audiobook. So these are my April books, 4 so far officially, but probably 6. Like I said, that is literally over half the amount of books that I've read in the entire year. So I just hit the jackpot, I feel like, when it came to April. Hopefully I'll have a good May. And then Jess and I can talk about it together, because gosh, I am out of breath talking about it myself. So normally I get breaks when she talks, I can catch my breath. My belly's just like growing by the minute, I feel like. But anyways, those are my April books. I hope you enjoyed. Please let me know what you're reading, and we'll catch you next time.